Hello, researchers. Today, I will be discussing writing chapter 2 of your research paper, the theoretical background and literature review. In your research paper, you can structure your chapter 2 like this. The main headings would be theoretical background and literature review. As you can see, you can separate the related theories, which talks about the theoretical background, from the literature review or the literature review of the related studies for your studies. So you have section 2.1 related theories and section 2.2 the literature review. So what's the difference between the related theories are basically talking about theories because theories are used in research. So in this section, the researcher must explain the theories that are used in their research. For example, if you are an engineering student, then your theories could be theories that are found in your major courses, in your major course in engineering. So you can check the theories that are applicable to your studies based on your major subjects. For social sciences, theories can be based on theories on learnings and psychological behaviors and more. One common mistake is that researchers tend to put so many theories even though these theories are not useful in their research. So make sure to include only theories that are applicable or that will be useful in your study. Explain how these theories are used in your research paper in writing section 2.1 or the related theories. So how you can do this, first maybe you can discuss the theory and also how this theory will be used in your research in guiding your research study. So that's for section 2.1 or the related theories. Section 2.2 talks about the literature review. A literature review is a survey of scholarly sources on a specific topic. So this literature review depends on your research topic. So you do this in order to get an overview of the current knowledge of the topic and for you to identify relevant theories, methods, and gaps in the existing research. Writing a literature review involves finding relevant publications and critically analyzing them and explaining what you found in the section 2.2. Also, make sure to choose the most significant, relevant publications and explain the points and information, the results and conclusions that are highly useful in your research. Another common mistake in writing the literature review is writing too many related studies. The section 2.2 or literature review is not actually about having so many related studies presented, but presenting only those that are really significant and relevant to your study. The essence of the literature review is to give a theoretical rationale of the problem or the question being studied, what research has been done, and how this research relates to the problem or the question that is being investigated. The literature review provides a solution to the problem if it is already previously solved, and if there is no solution yet to this problem, then this provides an avenue now for further research. So that is actually the reason why we do literature review. One common mistake is doing the literature review after proposing the title. Actually, the first step should be doing the literature review first and then proposing the title. So you should have done a just a substantial literature review for you to be able to know what has been done on your topic and what are the avenues or what are the opportunities for further research on the research topic. In writing the literature review, it is helpful to divide the literature into subtopics for ease of reading. So that's why you can actually create an outline for your chapter 2 or your literature review. You can outline it based on the themes that emerge in your literature review. Also, assess the quality of the literature being reviewed. The literature should be coming from reputable sources. Also, include research from well-respected individuals in a research area. For example, if you know someone who is an expert or a person on known doing research on that area, include the research of that person in your literature review. In doing also the literature review, you must have a clear narrative structure. So you can write the literary narratives by following these different styles. The first one is by following a logical progression. So what do we mean by following a logical progression? So in your literature review, you can start broad. As you can see here, you can start broad and then narrow down it to a narrower scope to show the study. So one point should lead very clearly to the next point, whether these points are within a paragraph or flow between paragraphs. How past research relates to your topic should also be shown very clearly. So this part is actually talking now on how to write your literature review. So you can start from broad and then narrow it. Another style is focusing on the issue. Say you have an issue, for example, climate change. So you can start by writing the previous findings on that issue. For example, climate change. So what are the findings of study 1 on climate change? How about the findings of study 2? How about the findings of study 3? So these are the things now that we already know based on the previous studies. So these are the things that we know because these are the findings from previous studies. Then from these findings, you can write the things that you still need to find out, and this will be your study focus. So this is now the research gap. What we need to find out about climate change that other researchers have not tackled. So in this way, you are presenting your literature review in a more organized manner, focusing on the issue of climate change, presenting the findings of different research about climate change, and creating a synthesis for the study focus, which is the research gap now of your study. Another way of writing your literature review is focusing on theory or issue debate in the field. So based on the debate, so say there is a debate or a gap whether which theory really is true. So there's a debate whether A or B is true. So you can focus on what are the findings about A, what are the findings that supports B. So based on these findings from other studies or from previous studies about point A and then point B, you can get the study focus, which will be your opportunities for research or your research your research gap. Another example, say there is a theory that students learn better online, so that's point A. And then another group of authors said that students do not learn better online. So there's a debate whether which is better, online or face-to-face. So you find researchers based on A and then researchers that supports B, and then you synthesize their findings to get your study focus. Another way of writing your literature review is focusing on the research problem. So based on the problem, you describe the relevant areas of literatures that talks about this problem. So at the end of your literature review, you can make an interdisciplinary study framework that can help solve your problem. Say for example, there is a problem on climate change. So what are the different studies from different disciplines that have been conducted on about climate change? So from health sector, from energy sector, from education sector, and then based on these different disciplines, you create now your opportunities for research. So that's how you can also create a research gap based on the research, by focusing on the research problem as you do your literature review. So basically the purpose of these frameworks that I'm presenting here is for you to get an idea how you can present your literature review in your chapter 2 in a manner that you are arriving at a research gap as you synthesize the results of your literature review. Because the output of the literature review is the research gap. So this research gap provides a discussion of what has been done versus what needs to be done based on the problem or the question that you have. So in your project proposal defense, you should prepare for questions like what is the research gap, and be ready to answer it based on the result of your synthesis of your literature review. In order to guide you in doing the literature review, here are some steps that you can do in doing your literature review. The first step is identifying the research topic that you want to explore. So in identifying the research topic that you want to explore, you should be flexible in your conceptualization of the research problem being investigated. So you can begin by identifying a broad idea and then be prepared to narrow it down as you progress through the research. So a research topic can emerge from a wide variety of sources, such as the need to solve a problem by a company. So that's why you are encouraged to go to companies, organizations, in order to identify their problems, and maybe from that you can identify a research topic that you can explore. Also, another source is your interest as well as your knowledge of the social conditions that needs research. So for researchers that are interested in conducting a comprehensive review of literature, then you must study topics that appear in the literature. And for sponsored research, you should also clarify with your funding agency or the source of your funds what the research problem is, so that you are aligned to their needs. So again, step number 1, identify the research topic that you want to explore. Step number 2 is review the sources to get an overview of that research topic. So you have to choose high quality sources for your literature review. So this is now the part where you are doing a literature review. But in step number 2, basically you are just doing an overview. It's not yet an intensive literature review, even though you can do it if you have time. As a guide on how to choose high quality sources for your literature review, you may use the Eaton's hierarchy of sources for educational research literature review to guide you in choosing the right literatures. How it looks like. So you have here the Eaton's hierarchy of sources for educational research literature reviews. So in this framework, Eaton is giving us an idea what source of information should we use and what should we use less. So here we have the most respected literatures. These are peer-reviewed scholarly and scientific journal articles from reputable publishers, peer-reviewed conference proceedings, books from highly credible publishing sources like Sage, Routledge, university presses. Also involves official government or public agency sources like policy documents, official reports, or documentation from highly credible non-governmental organizations like OECD, UNESCO, Oxfam, and etc. So these are most respected sources for your literature review. And based on this framework, you should have at least 80% of the sources for your literature review coming from these most respected sources. So you should get 80% of your literatures from this category. So I hope that it's clear. The next part here is the category that's okay to use but in moderation. This involves credible, edited professional journals, edited conference proceedings, white papers from well-respected think tanks or research institutes. They're also credible but not as credible or reputable as the first one. So in this case, your literature should not use more than 20% from this category. Then we have another category wherein we are given a caution to use sparingly. So these are sources from highly reputable news channels, like for example, BBC, Washington, or in local we have ABS-CBN, GMA, Bandera, all those. So in most cases, not more than 5% of your sources should be coming from this category. So it means that you use these sources sparingly in your literature review. And finally, you should avoid using literatures coming from non-scholarly sources, including Wikipedia. So you should not use that as your source of literature review because that is not a credible source because anyone can actually edit that. You should not also use quotation websites, articles from predatory journals, and articles from less reputable news sources or websites. So avoid these sources of literature, but focus on highly reputable scholarly sources. So to guide you in articles from highly reputable journals, I already collected here some source or some database as well as the link to this database that you can use to get articles for your literature review. So I have here this L-Compendex, which is an interdisciplinary engineering bibliographic database published by Elsevier. So the link is also found here. We also have IEEE Explore, INSPIRE, also have Novell, NCIS, Scopus, ASCE Library, NTRS, ProQuest, SAE Mobilus, Safari, SAE, EBS. You can also use Google Scholar, Google Patents, and for patents, you can use Fastnet, WIPO, Derwent Innovation Index. So I highly recommend these sources for your literature review. So that's step number 2. You have to find reputable sources now for your literature review once you have identified your research topic, because this will be the source where you should get your information to deepen your understanding of your research topic. Then once you have identified highly reputable sources of information for your literature review, you can now move on to step number 3, which is developing a search strategy. So your search strategy can involve identifying preliminary sources. So preliminary sources include databases and indexes that include bibliographic information, compilation, abstracts, and sometimes full text articles. Some most frequently used preliminary sources are those that I presented already, like ProQuest, Scopus, Gestor, Google Scholar. Another one is Patent Database. So use these preliminary sources for identifying, for getting your literatures. Then after that, identify your primary research journals. So this can be found in the reference list of the relevant journal articles or books. So you can go directly to that journal that publishes articles that is related to your topic. So for example, there is actually a journal for mechanical engineering, or specifically there is a journal for renewable energy, or journal for material science and engineering, journals for mechatronics. So identify primary research journals that publishes research articles related to your topic. Additional sources can be found through your networks. So you can also ask your networks. This may include the people working in your institutions or those you meet through your professional associations. So this may lead you to research in progress that you are unaware of. So again, develop a search strategy by identifying preliminary sources of your research articles, identifying primary research journals that publishes articles on your topic, and asking networks to help you also in your literature review. Then we have step number 4. Step number 4 is searching and selecting specific articles to review. So in searching, you should access your network and also check the table of contents, abstracts, and reference list in the primary research journals that you have identified in step number 3. So to do this, you select the preliminary sources that you think have the best information on your topic. So you do not have to read them right away. You can scan the abstracts and select the articles that are most relevant to your topic. You don't have to read the whole paper. So the purpose of the abstract is for you to be able to read the content of that whole article in a nutshell, in 100 to 250 words. So that's why you can start from the abstract in order for you to select specific articles that you will review. Because again, you cannot review actually all of the articles related to your topics because there are millions or thousands of it. So that's why you really have to be wise and select only specific articles that you review based on scanning, on your initial scanning of the abstract. That you obtain the titles or full text reference of the articles or the books that you have identified in step number 4. So once you have read the abstract, you can now decide if it is relevant to your topic or not. So if you want to read it further, you may look for it through online or through your library. So you have to obtain the full text of those journals now that you have identified that these are relevant or good sources of information for doing your literature review. And step number 6 is reading these articles. So this is the time now that you will actually read now the articles and prepare the bibliographic information and notes on each. So once you have the full text of the article ready, it is time for you to read it further and determine if it is relevant to your topic. You may want also to record the bibliographic information and notes about the article that you think is relevant to your topic. So whether your research is quantitative, qualitative, or mixed methods, the following outline can help you in note-taking as you read articles for your literature review. The first one is you can take note of the problem that needs to be addressed in the research article or the questions and hypotheses of the researcher of that research article. So take note, what is the problem that they are trying to investigate in the research. Then you can also take note of the paradigm of the researcher, which may include his purposes, assumptions, and values of the researchers. Then the design should also be noted. The design includes the research approach, the sampling strategy, characteristics of the participants, the data collection instruments, and methods. You can also take note of the data analysis that the researcher used, the results, and the conclusions. And finally, after reading the article, you can now evaluate it by writing down its strengths and weaknesses and ideas that you may have for your research. So these are just guides in note-taking as you read the article that you have identified to be useful for your literature review. Now, after doing all of those readings, you can now proceed to step number 7, which is analyzing the research findings and synthesizing the results. So you now analyze what you have found until the present and then synthesize the results that you've got. A literature review for your research proposal is usually more extensive because this is where you create your literature gap or your research gap. So the key word is to synthesize what you read from your literature review for step number 7. Finally, for step number 8, after you synthesize the research findings and the results, make sure that you use the literature review to gain a conceptual framework, because there are studies that wherein they need to create conceptual framework. Then you can use the literature review to make the conceptual framework. And for studies wherein you will be creating hypotheses or questions or objectives, use the literature review to develop your research questions, your hypothesis, the objectives of your study. So after you have done your literature review, you really have to use it. You can use your literature review at the beginning of your study to explain what is known about your topic and to clarify why your research is important. So I hope that this short discussion on writing the theoretical background and literature review help you as you create your chapter 2 for your research paper. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out. You can comment it down below or you can reach out to me personally.